All right. Well, welcome everyone. I see people are just starting to log in, and I'm going to give a couple minutes, but I want to welcome you to the Golden Shovel and Lead Forensics webinar. In this session, we are going to be talking about how to use lead forensics to get a little bit more intelligence in your data and follow your traffic. So I'm going to give everyone about a minute or two just to make sure we get logged in. Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to introduce my colleague today, Chris from Lead Forensics. We've been working with Chris for a couple of years now, and we have really enjoyed that relationship. The Lead Forensics has been fantastic for our clients. Has been fantastic for some business intelligence. And so today we're going to show some of those tools. Chris is going to give us a couple of highlights about the Lead Forensics tool itself, and then I'm going to show how Golden Shovel uses this directly with our clients and how we can get some more targeted marketing and intelligence. So, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to mute myself, and then to the attendees out there, you do have the ability to send questions in via the chat. So please do that, and then I'll be asking those questions as they come in. So, Chris, welcome to the webinar, and take it away.
Thanks, Ron, and yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you're based. Great to speak with you all today. And yeah, just picking up on what Ron mentioned there, we've been working in partnership now for a few years, and I know initially Ron and the team at Golden Shovel came on board with Lead Forensics as they were looking to really grow out the agency and to attract and drive new clients to the agency. And that's really how we started as a company 10 years ago. Our sister company, Market Makers, whose data I'm going to show you today, they were investing quite heavily in a whole variety of digital marketing streams, SEO, pay-per-click, social, advertising, etc. And what they noticed, they made a huge investment, but the conversion rate of their website was static. It was 2.3, 2.4%. And they were looking at it saying, well, I'm investing all this money, or we're investing all this money, driving all this traffic through to our website. These visitors are costing me money, but they're looking around at the website and then just moving on. Can I find out who they are? Because if so, I want to speak to them and I want to try and open up that conversation, because we can then steer that conversation, steer their sales, so the decision-making process, and hopefully that'll help the company grow. So they actually invented the software for their own internal use. And then about 6 months down the line, they actually won Barclays Bank as a client, purely off a visit to the website that didn't inquire, that they proactively reached out to. And Barclays Bank did something like £750,000 with them a year, which I guess at the time with the exchange rate back then was maybe $1.1, $1.2 million. And they've actually been working with that client ever since. So they decided, shortly after they won that client, to take it to market, because the thinking was, if it works for us, it will probably work for other businesses. And that's really why we exist. There's two key facts and two key stats around why Lead Forensics. And the first one is over 90% of all B2B buying decisions now start online. And that's 90%. And if you think about it on a personal level, if you need to go and purchase a new car or a TV or some sort of large item, the first thing you typically do is jump on Google. You do some research, get an idea of what you want, and then you might pop down to the dealership or Best Buy or wherever to continue, that decision-making process. And the second step is that 98% of a website's visitors won't inquire, and that only 2% do. So it's businesses hitting the market maker's website, the Golden Shovel website, your websites, doing all their research, potentially looking at your website and saying, maybe not for me. Potentially looking at your website and going, yeah, this could be of interest. I'll come and revisit this a little further down the line. So we were created to give you the opportunity to speak to those visitors and open up that conversation and basically widen the sales funnel.
And so, Chris, as I want to just translate that a bit to our economic development clients and economic development industry people. We're seeing the exact same thing, and that is people that are going to engage with communities, whether they're site selectors, entrepreneurs, possibly remote workers, and so forth. They are also going to do all of their homework online before they ever make that interaction. And one of the things that we've been using lead forensics for is that reverse lookup, the ability to start to look at industries and targets for our clients, and then we can really hone in on what those content articles are being read. So I'll give you an example. One client that we're working with now, they're very interested in the aerospace and how they attract that. So we've been writing content and helping them with a targeted for the aerospace. And then we can track this directly back to, hey, this is an aerospace company that's reading this content and following this links. We can't do that necessarily with Google Analytics. With Google Analytics, we can say, well, here's articles that are popular. Here's articles that are being read more often. Here's articles that are showing up in the search engines. But now with the lead forensics, we can take that back and say, not only are they being popular, but here's who they're popular with. On the contrary of that, if we put out content that is not attracting the targeted market, let's say it's attracting a market we don't want for that content, we know that as well, so we know to stop. So the nice thing about, and I'll show this when I get to my pieces for economic developers, is we know which content to ratchet up, we know which content to ratchet down, and we know which content we're testing. And that's all done by the advanced analytics of lead forensics. So Chris, I'll let you go ahead and take it into the actual functionality, and then I'll take it into the real world application.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ron. So just diving into this then, and what I'll do is I'll just give you a bit of an overview on some of the key features and functionality, and then we can dive into a couple of specific pieces. And of course, if you have any questions at any point, Ron, please shout out, or if the audience does. So the dashboard is the first screen that you typically see when you log in here. It's just designed to provide a snapshot of what's going on with the website at any one time. And you can completely customize what we see here. So as we can see, we've got this add a widget here. I can click setup on the left here, and then I can just drag something in. So let's just pull the states information in here. And then we can drag and drop these so they're all interchangeable. And each individual user on an account can have their own custom view here. So if you're looking at this from a sales perspective, you might not necessarily care about referring sites or the countries or the states and exit pages, etc. You really want to see like the most active companies and the most recent visits. Whereas if you're looking at this from a marketing perspective, all of this information is probably going to be quite valuable to you. Clicking through to the visitor list here, this is really what we're all about. So what we've got here is a list of the businesses that have been on the Market Maker's website over the last 2 weeks. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. So what we've got here is when they were on the website, who they are, and if they've visited multiple times, the location or the specific location of that particular visit. So what we're doing with our database behind the scenes here is we're narrowing it down to specific locations. So CubeSmart's a great example. The self-storage facility they've got hundreds, if not thousands of sites across the US. What we can do here is see it's this particular one up in Melbourne. We can see how they got through to the website, the number of pages they viewed, and then the duration. So how long they were on that particular, or how long they were on the website. What we've also got here on the right, the conversions. So these are just key pages that they've looked at on the website. So what we can see here is they've looked at, say, the contact page or a key service. So if I just hover over them, we've got the red star is lead gen, the trophy is telemarketing services. Just for reference, market makers do telemarketing and sort of call center services. If I was to click into CubeSmart, it drops it down to the next level. So what we've got here, the address for that office up in Melbourne, contact details, a little firmographic information, and links to all social channels. If we scroll down to the bottom here, what we can see here is that particular journey through the website. So we can see that they spent just shy of 3 minutes on the site, came in through Bing, which has allowed us to pick up some keywords, self-storage call center services USA, spent 1.5 minutes on this telemarketing landing page, who we are, lead gen services for 42 seconds, back to who we are, across to the home page. And then it actually looks like they've clicked back on the browser to get back to this telemarketing landing page here. So if you are market makers, the next thing to do with this is to say, do we know who CubeSmart are? Okay. Have we worked with them previously? Could we work with them? Are they an industry that we could work with? So what market makers would do, and they do this in a manual way, we can actually integrate with various CRMs, so we can automatically push the information across. Market makers use their own sort of custom CRM, so that's not possible, unfortunately. But what they would do is look in their CRM and say, have we spoken to CubeSmart previously? Do we have any sort of history or relationship with them? And then what they could actually do here is they could label this traffic. So I'm just going to go to, say, prospect SEO. And then what we could do here as well is assign it to somebody. So we could just put a little comment like that. Click assign there. And then my name pops up here. But what that would do is that would send me an email in real time. And then every time CubeSmart come back on the website, it's going to allow me to, or it's going to notify me so I can put in a timely follow-up.
And so, Chris, let me add that and bring it over again to the economic development realm. Obviously, we don't, in the economic development world, we don't necessarily talk in terms of sales, even though the process is similar to a sales process with lead generations and so forth. So how we have handled this with our economic developers is we start to look for contacts like, I'll use site selectors because that's a big one, or real estate. We see lots of people trying to find a way to attract businesses for their business parks. Once we know that certain companies are looking at specific property or site selectors, we encourage our clients to do the exact same things, which is go out and find out if you've been talking to somebody from that company. Maybe you've had some inquiries, or maybe you've been at a conference, or somebody has said, hey, I'll take a look at this. Now they've shown up on your website. Now you're backing them through the lead forensics and seeing what content they're reading. Then we encourage them, you could do it as Chris did here, you could just tag them. So if they come back, you're going to get an automatic email. But also then go out to or LinkedIn, and then go out to your network of people in your community and say, like maybe your board members or your bankers, and say, hey, do you know anybody from this company that might be interested? But you start expanding that net of who might be actually talking to you and looking at your sites. And it's a wonderful way to start to build that sphere of, okay, who's really looking at our business industry sites? Because as we know in economic development, some people may be looking 10, 15, 20 times before they actually pull the trigger. Okay, Chris, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. So just continuing on with the automation piece here. So if I just come back to the visitor list now, if I just refresh this, and what we'll see is how this updates. So we can see we've now tagged CubeSmart as a prospect. And then what we can actually then do is start to filter this data. So I can put a little filter on here that says, I only want to see businesses that I've tagged as a prospect. And then that's just going to cut it down, cut out all the noise, and show me, what I want to see. What we can also do, and I know from conversations we've had, Ron, and with the wider team there, a lot of our mutual clients want to also just set up some sort of reporting. So they get maybe a daily alert with potential target prospects when they hit the website. And we can do that to say, okay, send me an email of everybody that's hit the website yesterday. Or what we can actually do is we can start to narrow it down and put filters on this. So as an example, I could say I want a scheduled email report with all of the data. And then what I can do here, daily at 7 a.m. And then I could come onto here and go to, say, industry. And you mentioned, I think you mentioned aviation and aerospace a few minutes ago. So I could do this. So what would happen here? 7 a.m., I get an email, any aviation and aerospace businesses from yesterday hit the website. That's obviously getting quite specific. So what we could actually do, if I just get rid of this filter here, I could actually base it on, say, a location. So a business from a particular state hits my website, let me know. Or we could also look at it and say, I want to know when a business has looked at my website and looked at X number of pages. Notify me in that scenario. And Ron, one of the ways I know your team uses this, and I hope I'm not sort of stealing your thunder here from something you're about to show us, but you're using the state function. And then the people on your team in a business development role, they may have like East Coast and West Coast, and they're just separating the data based upon where that particular visit is hitting the Golden Shovel website from.
Correct.
Perfect. Just pausing here, I'm not sure if you have any questions or anything I've sort of shown here, Ron, or if any of the audience has asked anything.
So the first question that did come in was, and let me just grab this one. Can we track one of their existing clients or in the States? And you've already shown that. And then the other one is, can we filter the visitor list by categories or even by a token? I think you've shown with the hashtag who's visited what. So is there a content page? If we had a special promotion or we're running a special story, can we track and filter by just that page?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I just come back to the visitor list here, and then I'm just going to open up a separate tab here on conversion tracking. Sorry, the Zoom thing's just blocking me from clicking it now. There we go. So conversion tracking. So what market makers have done here is they've tagged key pages or key parts of a URL with an icon. So let's just use this lead generation one here. If anybody hits a page that's got lead generation in the URL, they get this little red star. And we can see that in this right-hand column here. And then what we can do here, where's conversions here? So I can say, only show me businesses that have looked at the lead gen page. So that drops it down to these 11 over the last 2 weeks. So what you would do there, you would tag the page, and then you could set up a filter here. And what you could also do, if I just come back to the trigger report feature I mentioned a second ago, what we could do there is we could say, okay, send me a real-time notification if a business lands on that particular page. You also mentioned around tracking existing clients, if I heard that correctly.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so the feature there, and this aligns to the little tags that we labeled with CubeSmart here, the categories here. So what we can actually do, if I come and open up a new tab again, let me just close some of these so I can access it. So what we can do here is we create our own categories, and these can be absolutely anything you like. So we could say client, prospect, trade show as they're using here, direct mail campaign. It can be any, any category you want. I've often seen categories here where people are putting Ron's existing prospects or something like that. And all you need to do is just give it a title and then select a color that you want for that label. And then what you can actually do as well, under the setup menu here, there's a feature called Data Manager. If I just come to import data here, what you can do here is you can take a spreadsheet of all your existing clients, and then you can upload that in here. And all you need is the company name and the URL. So you could just upload that as like a spreadsheet. And then when it comes to actions here, you can just say categorize as and give them that label. And then that would go and sort of do all the history. So since it's been tracking, go and update everything. And then moving forward, if a particular client hits the website, it's going to cross-reference with this uploaded list in real time, and then it's going to tag them under that category. And then obviously you could then receive a notification in real time or the following day to say ABC company or ABC client has been on the website.
Excellent. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of functionality. I'm going to actually, I'm going to give Chris a break here, and I'm going to walk over to our side on how we're using this data and how we're helping targeted traffic for folks. So Chris, I'm going to have you stop sharing your screen for 1 second.
Sure, that's with you now.
And then I'm going to grab, all right, I'm going to grab my screen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through what we've done. And Chris will give me feedback on how well or if he has suggestions for it. So let me start with this. I'm going to add it's probably a little bit of a bigger screen. Whoops, you're going to see that next. Okay, so starting with the dashboard, one of the things that we've done is to try to parse this down to what's very simple for people to use, because there's a lot of functionality. There's a lot you can get overwhelmed with. One of the things that our clients have found is they want to know the industry and the visitor list because they're going to report to their boards, or they want to report progress back to somebody. So one place that we start with is we go to the visitors list and you pick your time frame, but then you go down to this wonderful hidden feature here of export. And when you export the data, what you actually get, and we use this quite extensively, is you get a full data dump of everything that's out there. And you can see we assign it to certain people. We start looking at things. And if I scroll across here, you'll see you get all of that data. Now I'm going to become a little bit technical here for just a second, but not much. If you're familiar with Excel at all, you can do a wonderful feature called pivot tables. Just click inside the table, do a pivot table, and just tell it to select the range, which it's going to do a new worksheet. And this is one of the most powerful things that I've been using is, so I can take, let's say I'm getting ready to go into a board meeting, or we prepare these for clients from time to time. I'm going to grab the company. I want to know how many page visits, and maybe I want to know, let's just do multi-visits. I'm going to summarize that too. See what I've done already? By creating this pivot table, I can quickly grab the numbers and start to build reports. I can then do a sort by largest to smallest. I can see who's hitting our site the most. If I want to look by multi-visits, I can do a quick sort by largest to smallest here. So this is a great way to start to hone in for your reports to boards or to see if your content is working. I can create these pivot tables. I can create charts. I can do all of this stuff. And let me show you what it looks like in a report format when we put these together. And if you'll give me 1 second here, I'm going to find my report here. Okay, whoops, not there. So, for example, this was a report that we put together for one client using their lead forensics data as well as their Google Analytics. And we were able to look at all their traffic, compare all their traffic to all the economic development clients that we have in the industry. So we give an apples to apple comparison. That's very important to boards and so forth, because we don't want to compare the economic development traffic of an organization to, say, the retail or the flower shop, because that's just, it doesn't compare. And then we want to look at how, like this client was growing at 33%, they're growing at 11%, and that's in the top 33% of all the clients that we looked at. So this was an Iowa client, and they knew, okay, we're in the top 33% of growth, so our content must be doing some things right. And then we could walk through, and I'll just scroll very quickly to, we could walk through all their users. We can compare this to Google. We could also take it with the lead forensics. And notice I can get all their visited pages. And I know this is scrolling a little bit quickly because I want to get down to this. We can start to look at year-over-year growth. We can start to look at, were you statistically significant? In other words, were you actually driving the results you wanted to drive? And were they just not by chance? In other words, did something happen that drove traffic that we can't account for? And we can look at that and say, nope, we were doing the efforts correctly, and those efforts were driving the right results. And then I can get down into taking the visitor detail right out of lead forensics, and I can drive all of this into a report that goes to the board to say, more importantly, our efforts are working or they're not working. And if they're not working, we're going to adjust. If they are working, we're going to amplify. That's all we want to do with our clients, and to help them is to say, are the efforts getting you to the desired results? If they are, we'll amplify. If they're not, we'll change course. And this is a great way to do that, because we have better data, we have better targeted marketing intelligence, and we can trace it all the way back to, hey, we're trying to attract these companies, and look, they're visiting our website. So, but we can, I mean, the amount of data and knowledge that we have is absolutely fantastic using lead forensics and for our clients. So that's how we use it on that side. Chris, did you want to add anything to that? I'm going to stop sharing.
No, I think that's a really interesting way of using the data. Are you looking at things on perhaps a micro level as well? Or are you doing anything where you're looking at what pages people are looking at once they're on the website? So if you've got a company that's looking at they've visited multiple times, are you looking at what they're looking at on the website?
We are. In fact, one of the things that this is super helpful for us is, I'm going to pull the screen back up again. Is we write a lot of content, and we can actually use the lead forensics to get right to the page. Well, this is the refer. Let me get to the page. We actually look to see, here we go, here's the landing page. Did they come in and read that content? So we have everything to a numeric level. So we know, for example, which content pieces are popular, which ones are not. And then we can even go into those pages and try to make tweaks and do A/B testing. So if we have, like we know a headline and certain words are attracting certain traffic, we can expand that out to other and write more articles about that. So yeah, we really want to be granular with our efforts, because we want to make sure that the content we're writing is the right content. I have a question coming in, so let me grab one real quick. So do you have tips, resources for your clients who want to contact the prospects identified in the report? I'm wondering what you think the most effective vehicle for initiating communication. Oh, without the big brother vibe. Great question. we get this all the time, and Chris, you can help me out. First of all, a lot of people will say to us, well, that seems a little bit big brother-ish, or you're spying on them. On one hand, yes, I can see that, but on the other hand, everybody's doing, your data's out there, so everybody knows we're reverse looking up things. However, you want to be respectful. So what we've recommended to our clients is first of all, find out, like, if Chris from Lead Forensics visits my website, the first thing I do is I ask my team member, hey, does anybody know anybody at Lead Forensics? Does anybody have a connection? With our clients, we say, go to your boards, go to your bankers, go to your community members and say, does anybody know anybody from that company? And if they say, oh yeah, I know somebody here, and then we ask them to reach out, either an email, if they're comfortable on the phone, or with LinkedIn, but just to reach out and say, hey, I noticed somebody from your company was looking at information on our website. I want to make sure they get the right information. Could you help me identify who that might be? And what that does, it's a very non-threatening way to reach out, but it gives you two possible paths. Number one is they say, you know, I don't know who would have been looking at that, but here's a suggested group of people that might have been. Or they'll say, yes, I do know who it was, and point you directly to them. Either way, you'll have a subset of possibilities. And then what I highly recommend is use the power of LinkedIn. Go out to LinkedIn, look online, and build your relationships through LinkedIn. Everybody's doing that. And if you do it tactfully and respectfully, it doesn't come off as big brother. In fact, it comes off very well. Chris, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way of doing that process. And sometimes it's not possible to ask everybody, do we know somebody at that organization? So what I would certainly suggest, and just a piggybacking off something you mentioned there, is jump on LinkedIn and see what employees they've got. See if you've got any sort of second connections. So see if if a colleague is connected to them. And then when you're doing that reach out, there's typically two schools of thought that our clients have seen to be most successful. And now I'm just going to share my screen here again. So you should see my screen there. So up in the top right of the portal here, there's the Academy. Now this may not be on the Golden Shovel branded portals. If it isn't, I can get it activated for you. But in here, there's a stack of content around how to use the platform. And if you come to sales and marketing, sales conversation, and just click into here, there's a whole stack of content. So this might take a second to load, but there's a stack of content around like scripts and different tactics to use. And I mentioned there's two schools of thought. So the first one is this coincidental approach. So just reaching out to somebody, pretending you never knew they were on the website yesterday or earlier this morning, and just going in and pretending it's like a cold outreach. And yeah, you may not necessarily want to speak to the person that was on the website because that might alienate them. It might come across big brothery. But if you can speak to somebody in the right team and have that conversation, they may well know that they're in the market for that your particular product and service. The example I always give is we last year had a month or so when we had so many problems with our telephones in the office here, and we used like a VoIP setup. And if anybody called in at that time and pitched themselves and said, "Hey, I'm from ABC, VoIP company, just wanted to give you a cold call," anybody who answered that phone would have been like, "I'm not the person you need to speak to, but that's actually great timing. We're having some issues with our phones at the moment." The second approach, if I just scroll a little further down, is this customer service approach here. And this one it's a bit more direct. It's a bit more revealing that it says, "I've seen you on the website," but you're putting a positive spin on it. And it goes something like, "Hey, it's Chris here from Lead Forensics. Bit of a strange one. We actually use some software on our website. It tells us when our clients are looking at us, just so we can best serve them." it's actually just flagged up that somebody from your organization was on our website this morning. Not sure if it was yourself, yeah, perhaps one of your colleagues. I just wanted to give you a quick call, see if there's any additional information I can share. So it's quite direct. You're saying that we've seen them on the website, but you're also doing it in like quite a friendly sort of customer servicey manner. And like Ron mentioned, most people know they're being tracked online now. So it shouldn't scare somebody too much if going in that approach. If you reach out to somebody 5 minutes after they've been on your website and say, hey, we saw you on our website, what do you want? That's probably a bit too far. That might scare a few people. But I think if you wait a little bit, put that sort of positive spin on it, it shouldn't go down too big brothery. The final piece I'd add to this, and this is something that we've spotted a trend of over the years. Our most successful clients are following up within 24 hours of the visit on the website. The longer you leave it before following up, the colder the opportunity gets. That's just because our most successful clients have historically followed up the same day. And we've noticed from our research, we've noticed a definite sort of downwards trend in sort of levels of success the longer that contact is sort of weighted.
And I'll just jump in with this, Chris. You know, this still comes down to ethics and respect. You know, when people reach out to your website, they're looking for certain information. They're expecting to try to answer a question or to find something out. If you're coming at this from the standpoint of, hey, how can I help you? You reached out, you know, how do I answer your questions? And not using this in an unethical or malicious way, which I don't believe anybody in economic development is going to. I mean, the people we're working with, you're legitimately trying to match people up with your assets and resources. And that's a noble thing to do. And so approach it that way. I'm just reaching out to you because, you know, someone from your organization is interested in our community. If I can answer your questions, I'd love to help with that. If not, that's okay. You can move on. But you're here to help. I believe that our clients and the people in the economic development industry, you're just trying to help people be successful. This is a tool to accomplish that. It's not you know, none of the people we use or we're using it in any way that would be unethical at all. It's just, how do we reach out and help people accomplish what they're trying to accomplish? Okay. Well, we're at 40 minutes in. There's a lot of information here, and I think we presented a lot. I also don't want to overwhelm the audience, but Chris, is there anything finally that you want to show the audience or let people know?
I don't think there's anything in particular within the portal. There are a stack of additional features around automation and things like that. I think the best thing to do, actually, if you do want to learn a little bit more about the products, well, two things actually. Feel free to reach out to the team at Golden Shovel or myself. But secondly, dive across into the academy here and look at the product lab. So what we've actually done in here is broken down all the features of the product, and there's sort of step-by-step guides around how to use each particular piece.
Yeah, and what I'll add to that is the successful clients that we've seen use this, they start small and they expand. So in other words, a client gets set up, and then we turn them on the data, we start interpreting the data, then we start doing automated trigger reports, we start reviewing the data. I mean, here's what I see that hasn't worked is if somebody turns on lead forensics and then they feel like they have to go to it every day, while that's ideal and some can do it, other ones are just fine getting trigger reports and emails a couple times a week so they can stay on top of it. You know, it can be, you just have to manage it so that it becomes a helpful tool and not something that you're sitting there going, oh, I wish I was looking at my data every day. There's ways to manage that and ways to make it easy so it pops up in your email and you go, oh, there's my report. The other thing that I remind people about is economic development is a long game. And if you turn this on, you're not going to see, for example, aerospace emails every day. You might see them a couple times a month or once a month, but we're longer and a slower process than, say, high-end sales and retail and so forth. So that would be the points that I would offer up. I'm just going to take a quick look. I don't see any other questions coming through the chat. Everyone who's registered, you're welcome to reach out directly to us, and we'll send you up a follow-up email with this presentation as well as a recording, and then you can always respond back to that with questions. Well, Chris, I want to thank you very much for your time, and again, thank you for the valuable resource. We continue to use it and help people.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone stays healthy, and we'll wait for you on the next webinar. Thank you.